People who hate stories in which terrible things happen to small children should put this book down immediately.
This is I Don't Even Own a Television, a series of unfortunate events. Book the first, The Bad Beginning, now a Netflix original series.
1, 2, 3. There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all. 'Cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
All right, welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television. It's a podcast about bad books, which in this context means it's a podcast about literature that is not very good. My name is J.W. Inexplicably British Friedman.
Hello. And I'm Chris Clsn. I guess I'll be your chimney sweep this time around.
Would like to report this is the first book I think we've done that actually does include the phrase, hello. So, although it says it's said in a wheezy whisper, so it's more like, hello.
Oh, so more a Clive Owen than a Daniel Craig, if you will.
I have a very specific, particular set of skills, and they involve saying cliched things in a bad British accent. And also being racist on television.
Oh, god damn it. Can my people have nothing good? The answer is no.
But yeah, so just to get it out of the way, so the mobs of angry people can prepare their pitchforks and torches to come to our door. We are talking about Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. This is the first book in the series, but it's kind of a story, and it's kind of sometimes not presented as a series, but as a book with chapters. But in this case, we went for when it was still individual books, and this is the first book, and the reason we did it is because it is short and we are lazy.
Yeah, I wish I had something to add to that, but no, that's fundamentally it. Also, we're still trying to keep it light, and I have a certain affection for the mall goth aesthetic, if you will. So I thought it would be fun. Plus, I am one of the few people who saw part of the movie. I was at the Dollar Theater in Portland. I showed up 10 minutes late and got a phone call, so missed some parts in the middle, and then arranged a meeting I really wanted to go to, if you will, by a text message.
You could just say weed deal. It's okay.
So I left the movie about 10 minutes early, and it seemed fine.
It has Jim Carrey in it, so I beg to differ, but
it seemed fine for what it was.
Yeah.
It had Jim Carrey and Jude Law, so the vibes are not what you would call the most comfortable in the world.
Yeah, at least there's no Sonic the Hedgehog with weird teeth, so it could be worse. But we're not here to talk about the movie. We're here to talk about the book, which was written by one Lemony Snicket, quote unquote, a.k.a. Daniel Holder.
Is it Handler or something?
Handler, you're right. Yes, Daniel Handler, who, if I remember correctly, is from San Francisco, so I probably should give this some hometown pride. I know it's somewhat affiliated with the whole McSweeney's Valencia Project thing, but I'm not going to let that make me pretend to like it any more than I did. So it is what it is.
I think he's possibly friends with the Magnetic Fields. That to me is kind of cool.
That tracks. And earlier you mentioned the mall goth aesthetic, and this is definitely like if you have an Edward Gorey t-shirt and then you had a kid, this is probably the book series you were reading to your kids. I'm just going out on a limb here, but there's a really good chance that if you worked at a Hot Topic, say, and had children, they were probably getting a healthy dose of Lemony Snicket. So, and there's no way I'm going to be able to say Snicket without sounding kind of dismissive, because I think it's the stupidest pen name I've ever heard.
Well, maybe we could take a page from our pals over at the Worst Best Sellers, and you could think of it as Lemony Snicket Kit. And imagine that it's Wolverine, noted tough guy, doing all of these cool things and talking in slightly flowery language.
Okay, so Lemony the Rock Johnson, I've got it. Yes, you're right, Daniel Handler. Here's one of the first things before we even get into the book that irritates me about this, is that Lemony Snicket is a pen name. It's a character that was invented by the author, who self-inserts in just about everything he writes, not just this series, but including many other series of books that he's written. And he is a character in all of them, to the extent where he appears in the movies as himself, sometimes by Jude Law, sometimes by Patrick Warburton, because that makes a lot of sense. And
that's just good narration right there.
And in the video game, based on the film, he is portrayed by Tim Curry. So, just
there's
getting all your bases covered. Oh, yeah, there's a video game.
This doesn't quite raise to the level of high point nor descend to the level of low point. But in case you're not familiar with these books, and, if you're an adult who mostly reads books without pictures, perhaps you aren't. That's fine. I am neither of those things, so that's also fine. Here's a taste of the kind of voice and the kind of narratorial self-insert.
Does it go like this?
Character. I mean, that's not exactly how I was going to read it, but I've definitely been given to understand that that's how a lot of people hear my voice when I talk.
Oh.
Yes, that's right. I stayed up late, got drunk, and read the iTunes reviews again.
Oh, no, don't do that.
Big ups to the guy on Facebook a couple years ago who took pains to point out, you don't actually sound that much like Tom Servo. Thanks. Anyway.
That's good.
Look, all podcasts have to have somebody who sounds more or less like Ray Romano and one person who talks fast and is pleasant to listen to. I just happen to know where I fall on that spectrum, okay?
I just need to work on the pleasant to listen to part. Coming up next on I Don't Even Own a Television, we'll be discussing Lemony Snicket and a series of unfortunate events, and you'll be surprised what happens next, so stick around on the Gimlet Network. We're not on the Gimlet Network. Don't sue us. Thank you.
Act 1, an unfortunate event.
Yep.
Act 2, another unfortunate event. Act 3, yet another unfortunate event.
Act 4, was Wind of Change by the Scorpions actually written by the CIA? Find out next.
I mean, it's probably the worst Scorpions song, so maybe. I don't know. You've been listening to a podcast about it. I have not. I just have more deeply held and long-held opinions about the Scorpions than I suspect you do.
I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna give away the ending or anything because there is not really any ending to give away. But surprise, it's ambiguous and unprovable.
Nice.
But I tend to lean towards the. I don't think the CIA was writing songs, but I do think that there's a very good chance that song came from somewhere else. Anyway, now that we're done discussing someone else's subject matter, let's get back here to Lemony Snicket, The Bad Beginning.
Now, speaking of musical digressions, okay, here is the taste of the authorial presence that I promised or perhaps threatened about 14 minutes ago. Violet looked around the dim and messy room. I'm certain that over the course of your own life, you have noticed that people's rooms reflect their personalities. In my room, for instance, I have gathered a collection of objects that are important to me, including a dusty accordion on which I can play a few sad songs, a large bundle of notes on the activities of the Baudelaire orphans, and a blurry photograph taken a very long time ago of a woman whose name is Beatrice. These are items that are very precious and dear to me.
Okay, you said earlier this is a mall goth vibe, but like that sentence right there, that could be Decemberist lyrics. I'd just like to point that out. And I feel like that's less mall goth than like library twee. But, you know, you can take it as you may. The dusty accordion with songs about the Baudelaire children, I'm just imagining like the world's worst concept album by Colin Malloy, and I'm not enjoying it.
Is this why you never answered the email I sent you about working up something I described only as fish, ! The musical?
Yeah, I think it is. As a amateur accordionist myself, let me tell you, I've got racks of poorly composed songs. They don't involve a lot of effort unless you're actually trying to be good at the accordion. But boy, you can make things sound maudlin. Let me tell you.
But can you make them sound maudlin and French?
Yeah, that just all depends on what scale you're working within.
Damn, I didn't know they had their own scales.
Well, they don't, but a minor key accordion is going to sound very French. You know, a major key accordion is going to sound like you should polka to it. So
Nice.
There's a difference.
And they say you can't learn anything listening to podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there is probably a very specific church mode that French accordion music operates in. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to say Dorian. There you go. Because Dorian is a cool word for a musical thing.
Oh man, I remember shoplifting guitar magazines and like reading about modes because the style of the time was heavily influenced by the neoclassical movement of heavy metal guitar. Yes, that was a thing. No, you shouldn't listen to it unless your thing is literally listening to guitar players play scales as fast as they freaking can. It was sort of my thing for a while till I realized I couldn't play scales very fast for two reasons. One, I didn't know any scales and couldn't manage to learn. And two, my right-hand technique was, not bad, but my left-hand technique was, extraordinarily bad.
I was just going to say, it's all in the left hand when you're playing shred guitar, man. You're only picking one out of every 7 notes. The rest are all hammer-ons and pull-offs and taps and slurs and slides and bends. Oh.
Or as I believe it was... No, it wasn't SpongeBob. I believe it was Homestar Runner who coined the term going wheedly, wheedly, wheedly way high up on the little strings.
That is definitely a Homestar Runner. That's a strong bad right there.
That's a strong bad. Yeah.
And interestingly, though, Wheedly, Wheedly, Wheedly has been floating around in the vernacular for a long time. So, all right, back to
anyway.
this
It was a style of guitar, and if you read about it, you learned lots of types of modes. The end. Should we talk about this stupid book, Jay?
Hey, you said you were going to be nice. I was supposed to be the asshole this time.
That was stupid in terms of that was just verbal punctuation. As our responses to the passage I just read, I think hint. I liked this book. The act of reading it was pleasurable and fun to me. Most of my notes I wrote kind of chuckling a little bit to myself. I sense, Jay, that your response was slightly different.
I have a terminal affliction to the twee, and this book is very twee. Like I like twee in certain contexts, but definitely not in the literary context. And this book is about as twee as you can get, short of like maybe introducing some talking birds. I'm not feeling it. I was not feeling it. I was really glad it was short, and I did not like the authorial voice at all. So, yeah, I didn't like it. It was very short. I enjoyed that. I'm trying to think of anything else positive to say about it.
Well, let's save them. Maybe.
Yeah, I need to save it for high points, low points, because otherwise I'm going to blow them all right now. But would you like to try to summarize the plot of this book in a certain amount of time?
I would like nothing better. So why don't you play a song, and then I'll tell you how I propose to go about it.
Okay, here's some music.
Nobody knows if you win it or not. You got 60 seconds to give them the plot. Plot is 60 seconds.
No, that was not the December's Legionnaire's Lament. That was the plot in 60 Seconds theme song. And what that means is it's time for Collision to try to sum up this book in 1 minute or less.
It's also a deep cutting cut, because I assume here Jay just knows that that's the only December song I have ever truly loved, and is brandishing it like a cudgel to own me. And is it working? Yes, it's working.
No, it's just the only one I could remember off the top of my head, because they actually pronounce how is it, Champs-Élysées? Is that correct? Something like that. They do a good job.
That's not correct, but my French is so bad, I'm not going to try it.
Yeah, they get it closer than most Americans, including myself, so I like that. But, other than that, I couldn't really think of any others until halfway through your reply. And the only other one I could think of is that really creepy song about Mila Goldberg, the author, which is... That song just kind of freaks me out. Anyway.
I don't think I know that one.
It's an ode to the author of Bee Season, and it seems a little bit like an unrequited love note. I don't like it. It's a little creepy. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue.
Fair enough. So, as has been recently pioneered, a certain kind of book will occasionally stop, recap the plot so far, and then restart. And as someone who has to summarize books every so often, that's intensely useful to me. So I'm going to read the book's recap and then lurch into my own recap from what happens from there. And I'm going to do it all in less time than it takes to cook asparagus.
Okay, listeners at home, please listen for the lurch. See if you can find it. Are you ready?
Right, I'm ready.
Begin.
As the first light of morning trickled into the tower room, Violet reflected on all the awful things she and her siblings had experienced recently. Their parents had died, suddenly and horribly. Mrs. Poe had bought them ugly clothing. They had moved into Count Olaf's house and were treated terribly. Mr. Poe had refused to help them. They had discovered a fiendish plot involving marrying Violet and stealing the Baudelaire fortune. Klaus had tried to confront Olaf with knowledge he'd learned in Justice Strauss's library and failed. Poor Sonny had been captured, and now Violet had tried to rescue Sonny and found herself captured as well. All in all, the Baudelaire orphans had encountered catastrophe after catastrophe, and Violet found their situation lamentably deplorable, a phrase which here means it was not at all enjoyable. Count Olaf's scheme to dispossess the orphans of their inheritance is to, in the context of a play written by Al Funkoot, portray a marriage where the marriage ceremony is read by an actual judge, meaning it won't be a fake marriage, it will be a real marriage, and then he'll be married to the person who has all the money, and thus, according to the law, he'll have all the money. Yay! Go Count Olaf. Except that the laws of the land specifically state that the I do must be said and written in the doer's hand, and Violet very cunningly signs it in her left hand, not with her right hand, because it's been established 85 times in this 100-page novel by this point that she's right-handed, and thus the scheme is foiled. And then the lights go out, and the bad guys get away, and the orphans are going to be trundled off to the next family at the end.
Okay, so that's a little over, but just to reinforce what you said, the third paragraph in Chapter 1 begins as such. Violet Baudelaire, the eldest, liked to skip rocks. Like most 14-year-olds, she was right-handed. hate that so much.
Oh my god, that joke literally was going to be one of my high points. That joke landed for me. I thought that was a funny description.
I don't know. It just bugged me. It bugged me a lot. I was like, why most 14-year-olds? Like, do you change your hands as you mature? Are we not ambidextrous at birth? I have no idea.
I think it's strongly related to genetics. I think, like, most people notice their kids are handed because the kid is just got one dominant hand, but I could be very wrong by that.
I think that's true.
Back in the day, they used to try to force right-handedness on people in the schools, and it went poorly.
Yeah, I hold my pencil funny, and there was a lot of consternation about that in my first couple years in the public school system. But I don't know, just like most 14-year-olds, was right-handed really jumped out to me as an annoying turn of phrase, and I think you're going to see this is where we differ substantially on this book. Is moments like these.
What we have here is, I don't know, I guess a middle reader book. It's probably aimed at your, 8 to 10-year-olds. They're just getting into reading for more than just story. Like, there's attempts at flowery language here that, again, mostly work for me. I can really picture a kid who's maybe a little on the fence about reading, really enjoying some of the jokes and some of the self-referentiality and stuff. So yes, we are technically not doing a turgid book for grown-ups. Sorry.
Yeah, I will say that as far as that kind of thing goes, I still enjoyed the book we read that was actually written by a 9-year-old more than this when
Fair.
It comes to the style. But this is not a serious book, and it's definitely not a book for capital A adults. So I think we are kind of breaking our own rules a bit, but once again, we're trying to keep things pretty light in these dark times. But I just... Oh God!
And I
can't deal.
If you're offended by us doing a children's book, that's fair. If you think it's out of our remit to do a book that at least one of us doesn't even think is bad, I'll just remind you, we did Bunnicula and we loved it. So that's where I'm coming from. I thought this was
I have
fun.
nothing against children's lit. I have a lot against the flowery prose inherent in this, I think. And then also, I did a little bit of kind of extra homework, and I read some summaries and kind of basically the wrap up of the entire story. And this shit just gets more and more ridiculous as it goes on. So I don't know. We'll get there eventually for sure. The one thing I wanted to mention that I don't really think fits in high points or low points is that throughout this book, the evil character, Count Olaf, which made me laugh a lot because Olaf's was the name of the ice cream parlor when I was in high school that we all used to smoke weed behind. He has tattoos and symbology and stuff all throughout his house of an evil-looking eye, and it's never described
that's why
what
you
that
hated
means. It. Yeah. It's never described what that means, and when I found out what that actually meant, I was ready to fucking, I don't know, break a window, I think. It's really...
What did it mean, Jay?
It's not an eye at all, you see. It's an eye pictogram made of the letters V, F, and D. And what would you think that stands for?
Victor fucking Duncan. I don't know, man.
A volunteer fire department. Who are, as we learn, progressing throughout this series, a group of people who started out as good guys who put out fires, and then there was a schism, and some of them started to start fires instead, be they of the literal or metaphorical sense.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you form an I pictogram out of the letters V, F, and D? You know what? That's bad radio, but
I'll
I'm
send
still
you a
confused
link.
by
I'll
it.
send you a link.
I don't think I'm going to click on that link.
It's bad. All I gotta say is, look up this series on Wikipedia if you ever want to know how far you could stretch a very thin premise.
But, I mean, isn't holding the excesses of the sequels against the innocent goodness of the original a little like repudiating Star Wars because the prequels weren't great?
No, because I'll tell you exactly why I think this. Because the prequels themselves made no allusions to the badness which was to come. Because, believe it or not, I am not a member of the type of person, or pardon me, I am not a member of the club that thinks George Lucas had 9 movies planned out when he started the first one. And so this, however, on the other hand, feels like it was very, very much predetermined, and it was going to be revealed piece by piece as part of a startling mystery where you uncover the volunteer fire department.
Well, I don't know. I still thought this book was fun.
I know. I'm playing my role here. I'm the spoiler this time around. It's okay. Everyone can hate me and not you this time. They could be like, oh, that Clsn, he's so charming with his love of whimsical children's novels. And plus, everybody at home knows how much I fucking hate whimsy. So there's that, too.
Yes, twee whimsy guy, Chris Clsn.
Not necessarily, but I think you have a much higher tolerance for it than I do.
That's probably true.
I get a whiff of the whimsical, and I'm fucking out that door like I don't know, like a cat just pooped in the corner.
We should talk about your cat poop intervention strategies at some point, maybe off air.
Yeah, it may not be a bad idea.
Should we try some high points and low points?
I guess we should, yeah.
High points are high, and low points are low. High points, low points, get ready to go.
Let's go ahead and why don't you start with a high point, because I've got to put some of my tiny little brain to use, thinking of things I enjoyed in here. So you go first.
Yeah, no, okay, I'll go first. Like I said, a lot of the jokes actually did kind of land for me. You've already named the first one, which was, like most 14-year-olds, Violet was right-handed. I just thought that was funny. It's needlessly specific, and it made me chuckle. There's jokes like this that I know you also didn't like. Please get out of bed and get dressed, he said briskly. The word briskly here means quickly, so as to get the Baudelaire children to leave the house. I really like the authorial self-interruptions to slightly misexplain words consistently.
Uh-huh.
I just thought it was cute. And yeah, so I guess the high point really is a lot of the jokes, a lot of the wordplay sort of based jokes, or the author self-insert based jokes, did kind of work for me. And I think would probably work for the intended audience, which is probably not, union members in their mid-40s.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of agree with you here. I did not like the authorial self-insert, by which I means to say jokes, but what I did think there were several clever turns of phrases. Pardon me. I did think there were several clever turns of phrases, saying things like, although he said he was the executor, Violet felt like Mr. Poe was the executioner. And things like that made me chuckle a little bit. There is some wordplay in here that did make me chuckle a little bit. I also like the illustrations. I think kind of fall hand in hand with this, in that there's one in particular, the header for chapter 7, which is a man's arm who has hooks for hands, and he has a cufflink with the eye symbol on it. but he has speared half of a book and is reading a book with a hook through one side of it, and I thought that was kind of funny too. So some of the humor here did land for me. I'm not going to deny that. Okay. I'll agree with that. There are a couple different jokes here. Here's a good one. The money is an incentive. The word incentive here means an offered reward to persuade you to do something you don't want to do. Like, that's kind of clever. I like that.
Right.
Yeah. So occasionally those did land with me. What I didn't like was when it was just more simple things like, he told them the word to move briskly. The word briskly here means fast.
I can dig it. So I guess I owe you a low point.
Yeah.
And it's worth giving a little bit more backstory. So Count Olaf's scheme, as you heard, is to stage a real wedding in the guise of a fake wedding on stage. Count Olaf is possibly the head of, or at least involved with, an evil theater troupe. And
the volunteer fire department.
Well, we don't know that because that's not within the covers of the book that we read.
Okay, sorry.
At least I don't know that.
Yeah.
And the way all of Olaf's theater troupe is described is that all of them are, I would describe it as physically non-normative. You mentioned a character who has 2 hooks instead of 2 hands. One character is, I think, overweight. One character is repeatedly and upsettingly described as appearing neither like a man nor a woman.
Yeah.
And I did not like that. To me, the most evil stuff in the book is actually maybe the bank functionary Mr. Poe actually hearing the words, "My brother's guardian, Count Olaf, punched him in the face. Here is the visible bruise." And Mr. Poe responding, well, there's nothing to be done about that. Right? And he's very normal looking. And I really thought that all should have been brought home a lot more. Like, I get that this is an over-the-top, like, Addams Family world of absurdity and twee whimsy. But it's also, like most kids' books, flat out didactic in parts. And so I do insist that it would have been okay to make the point that what evil often looks like is apathy in a banker's office. And no, I will not calm down. I know this is a Wendy's. And if the Frosty machine is broken, I wish you'd put up a sign because I feel like you're wasting my time, and I'll have a Diet Coke and a large fries.
Okay. All right. Sorry, sir. Please pull forward.
Not to go off on a rant here.
No, I do agree. And I do agree that I think one of my major low points for this book, and especially a book for children, is that this is not Brazil. And bureaucracy should not triumph overall. So I do not think that an evil man should be legally permitted to marry a 14-year-old girl just because the law says it's okay in that town. I don't necessarily think that means he should have immediate access to her family fortune, which is the big plot point here. I think there's a lot of just very strange adherence to, well, that's just the way it is. You're going to have to let him be horrible to you because he is acting, what is it, in toto parentis.
Loco parentis.
What's that?
In loco parentis.
In loco parentis, not in toto parentis, sorry. And
in toto parentis is if you are adopted either by a small dog or the world's worst rock band.
Sure could do that Purdy shuffle, though. But yeah. Yeah, in loco parentis, there's just like there's this, and I know what they're getting at. I know what Mr. Snicket is getting at is just kind of this overwhelming force of bureaucracy that even adults feel at a time is inescapable, and that you can't get past this bureaucracy. But I feel like throughout the novel, pretty much the good things that happen entirely by coincidence. The bad things that happen within full knowledge of the quote-unquote good guys, the good characters, but they're powerless to do anything about it because the law. and that bugged me a shit ton.
Well,
basically,
I think
what I'm
that's
saying
fair.
is, fuck the police.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think what's important to note, though, is this is explicitly like an evil place, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's implied, but never really made clear. And this may be one of the few series of books we've started with the first one, where if we would have jumped in with book 3 or 4, it may have been more clear that this actual locale is filled with evil because of the bureaucracy that runs it. But I didn't necessarily really get the impression that wasn't hammered home strong enough for me to accept that naturally good-hearted characters, especially like their neighbor, who is a justice, is willing to stand by while she watches these children she's befriended essentially be abused and gaslighted and just taken advantage of because that's the law. It just bugged me. I don't know. I think I was supposed to be doing a high point here, though, wasn't I?
No. High, low, low, high, and I think we're technically
good.
still in the first round of lows. But I will just say that this is one place I did violate my rules, and the version of the book that I got includes the first chapter of the next book, and that opens like this. The stretch of road that leads out of the city past Hazy Harbor and into the town of Tedia is perhaps the most unpleasant in the world. It is called Lousy Lane. Lousy Lane runs through fields that are a sickly gray color, in which a handful of scraggly trees produce apples so sour that one has only to look at them to feel ill. Lousy Lane traverses the Grim River, a body of water that is 9/10 mud and that contains extremely unnerving fish. And it encircles a horseradish factory, so the entire area smells bitter and strong. And so, that's a little bit more clear. There's tiny moments where they describe the city in the first one that I think hint at it. But you're right, there is just a lot of very distasteful whelp, them's the rules that I think is inadequately signposted. The will of the Baudelaire's parents says that the children are to be raised in the most convenient manner possible.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty funny, but again, that little peg is not enough to support the full weight, I think, as you're describing. So maybe if this were a 300-page book that included, the first 2 books, maybe some of those problems would have been addressed, but it's not. It was sold to me as a 110-page book, so...
Exactly. And it's just, to me, Justice Strauss, who is inevitably, I'd say, probably the most good-hearted character in this book, other than our 3 children, heroes, is just, constantly being like, well, there's nothing I can do. And that bugged the shit out of me. What Justice Strauss should have done is made off in the dark of night with these 3 children away from this creepy, abusive house that her neighbor is keeping them hostage in, and gone to Lousy Lane or whatever the fuck it is, and get them out of there. It bugged me.
All right. So I'll move to my second low point. And I don't know if this resonated with you, Jay, but at the end of chapter 7, the middle child, Klaus, the bookish one, the oldest is Violet. She's 14. She's a mechanical engineer and inventor of sorts. The middle child is Klaus. He's bookish and therefore has glasses. And the youngest child is
Don't get too into it.
Infant named Sonny, who likes to bite.
Yep.
But at the end of chapter 7, poor Klaus thinks maybe, just maybe, the book Klaus was smuggling could save their lives. And I was like, this poor fucking kid, he hasn't even heard our theme song. He doesn't know that that's not how that works.
No, yeah. Books will never do you good, folks. That's why we started this podcast.
That's right. It's not Ride the Crab, it's Never Read.
Yeah, never read. It's always bad. Okay, second low point. I'll try to keep this one short. Snicket, I know what he's doing here. He's trying to introduce kids to literature, which is cool. That's good. But there are so many characters in this that are named after authors in the most clumsy possible way. You know, like our villainous, somewhat, what's the word I'm looking for? Somewhat magical, but not quite alluded to, gloomy asshole who lives by himself in a filthy apartment. His name is Poe. The children's last name is all Baudelaire. It's all very ham-fisted, like, hey, here are the names of authors. And that, yeah, I didn't like that. And I'm just going to keep it short at that because I feel like that's the clumsiest possible way to reference other literature in your literature is to give characters the names of famous authors.
All right, I can dig that. So I owe you a high point, so we can go out on a high note. And I will, for my high point, call out a joke that A, doesn't work for me, but B, that I think goes unexplained. Now, the bad play, and it is explicitly and exquisitely described as a bad play, is written by Al Funcoot. Now, those of us like me, Chris Clsn, who enjoy doing the jumble in the newspaper that they subscribe to every day.
Oh, you figured it out, too.
Because, as I've said before, the average reader of this book is a 45-year-old union member who subscribes to the local newspaper. Al Funcoot is, in fact, an anagram of Count Olaf. And while it's obvious, it's just this little Easter egg that they don't explain and don't talk about. And I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I figured that out pretty early on, too, and I was like, yeah.
That's cute, right? That's cute.
Yeah, there's a lot of these little word games throughout. I think my problem is that I'm always going to hold books written for this age group against, like, the Westing game and things like that I read when I was younger, which I feel were much better, much smarter, and kind of, I don't know, not written by someone named Lemony Snicket.
Right.
I'm a jerk. Okay. My last high point
so what's your last high point?
My last high point is Sonny, the youngest of the Baudelaires. Because, as you mentioned earlier, in this family we have an inventor, we have a bookish one, and then we have a small child who likes to bite things. And there is a scene where when she's leaving a house, she proceeds to go through everyone's room and bite all of their shoes to leave quote-unquote small teeth marks in each one so she would not be forgotten. And that did make me laugh a lot. So I will admit that. Also, at one point, she bites another character, and one of the older children says, "That's how you know she likes you. If she didn't, she'd bite hard." So, yeah. I liked the biting baby. I don't know why.
Oh my God, is that actually an entry in the further series, The Biting Baby? Because I believe all the titles are elusively alliterative.
Oh, they definitely are. I mean, if alliteration exists, it exists for the purpose of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. So, yeah, I don't know if that is the name of a future book, but it easily could be. And, you know, if he ever wants to revisit it, if he gets done writing any of his other series or, you know, like, I don't know, doing whatever cultural attaché mission he's on now, like introducing children to the opera via a mystery novel entitled The Composer is Dead, which I was like, that's kind of cool. He could easily come back with The Biting Baby. So
I don't know, man. Like that seems like ripping off, but badly, the great Far Side cartoon where there's a slumped character over a keyboard and someone's saying, "Shh, the maestro is decomposing."
Yeah, it's very close to that.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, it is funny. It's funnier than this, but also designed for adults. So give it, Now I'm gonna come to the offense. Pardon me, come to the offense. I'm gonna come to the defense of old Lemony here and say it's written for children. So what can you do?
What can you do? Well, you know what we could do? We could take a quick break and then come back and play some fun games.
Yeah, let's go take a quick break, find a park, and, ruin some children's fun.
Ooh, I see you've got a balloon. Be a shame if it met my friend, Mr. Pin.
We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the episode of I Don't Even Know the Television that's probably going to anger more people than anything we've ever done. We're back, and we're still talking about Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, Book 1, The Bad One. I can't remember what it was actually called, and I can't be bothered to go back to the title.
It's The Bad Beginning, and I believe you claimed that the subtitle was Now a Netflix Series.
That is true. Now a Netflix series, and it has a Netflix logo on the cover, just so you know what quality you're dealing with. It makes me wonder if they've gone back and done that now with, like, The Golden Compass, if that has an HBO logo on it. Also a children's book I enjoyed much more than this. But anyway...
I mean, this is hardly the first thing that we've done that had its purity of essence, shall we say, compromised by the grubby mitts of capital.
It isn't, however, I think, the first one. I'm pretty sure it is. Pardon me. It is, I'm pretty sure, the first one that's gone back and had its cover art redone with a prominent corporate logo, though. Could be wrong.
Maybe. Now I'm struggling to think. Although I swear to God, every time we start up a thread about, okay, what should we do next, I live in terror of pitching you a book that it turns out we've already done and I just flat forgot. So
yeah.
So I don't know why I'm trying to argue with you about, like, whether or not any of them had corporate logos added to their covers.
This is the first one I can think of that had a, say, non-literary corporate logo added to the cover, but I could be wrong. We could have done something with a giant HBO logo in the corner, and I never would have noticed.
Yeah.
I definitely would have noticed if it was like Cinemax or something.
Right.
So...
But you know how bands sometimes go back and re-record songs that they did before? Definitely not because they're out of ideas, but only because they realize now we can truly do this idea justice.
Actually, the pop punk band Face to Face, this is like one of my favorite pieces of musical ephemera there is. They recorded 4 albums, I believe, in their prime on 4 different record labels, and every single one of those 4 albums closed with a different recording of the same song. And I absolutely know it's because they thought it was their best song and they wanted to get it out to the largest audience possible. And here's the secret: song's not that great.
Wow, I didn't see that coming.
The hook is a reworking of a Descendants song. Anyway, those in the know, they'll know what I'm talking about. But if you're feeling a bit disconnected from the show, I think it's time for us to get back into our normal scheme of things here and do some games. So let's start out with the lousiest, bitterest smelling game in podcast history. This is Dramatic Readings.
Dramatic readings. We're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings. Yeah, I got some words for you.
All right, so dramatic readings, we take parts of a book and we read them to you, and we try to make them sound dramatic. And so I've got one, you've got one. I'm going to go first. This is right after our heroes' parents have all died in a tragic house fire. VFD. The secrets they're sneaking in. And they've now been, quote unquote, referred to many times as the orphans, and they are introduced to their new guardian, who is the most convenient way to rehouse them, as you mentioned earlier, Count Olaf. And they're introduced to his house by being driven there by Mr. Poe, who is our kind of our bureaucratic. I'd say he's our entrance into the world of the bureaucracy of whichever place this is that they live. It's never explicitly mentioned that it's British, and I don't think it is, because I believe this book was written in San Francisco, but still, it's definitely meant to evoke that kind of, I don't know how to describe it, that like 1800s, like kind of, Dickensian backdrop. And
we are explicitly treated to both cobblestones and motorcycles.
Yes. Okay, so here you are, Mr. Poe said, in a voice undoubtedly meant to be cheerful. Your new home. The Baudelaire children looked out and saw the prettiest house on the block. The bricks had been cleaned very well, and through the wide and open windows one could see an assortment of well-groomed plants. Standing in the doorway with her hand on the shiny brass doorknob was an older woman, smartly dressed, who was smiling at the children. In one hand, she carried a flower pot. "Hello there," she called out. "You must be the children Count Olaf is adopting." Violet opened the door of the automobile and got out to shake the woman's hand. It felt firm and warm, and for the first time in a long while, Violet felt as if her life and the lives of her siblings might turn out well after all. "Yes," she said. "Yes, we are. I am Violet Baudelaire, and this is my brother Klaus and my sister Sunny, and this is Mr. Poe, who has been arranging things for us since the death of our parents." "Yes, I heard about the accident," the woman said, as everyone said, "How do you do?" "I am Justice Strauss." "That's an unusual first name," Klaus remarked. "It's my title," she explained, "not my first name. I serve as a judge on the High Court." "How fascinating," Violet said. "And are you married to Count Olaf?" "Oh, goodness me, no," Justice Strauss said. "I don't actually know him that well. He's my next-door neighbor." The children looked from the well-scrubbed house of Justice Strauss to the dilapidated one next door. This is when the camera pans with a kind of sound. The bricks were stained with soot and grime. There were only two small windows, which were closed with the shades drawn, even though it was a nice day. Rising above the windows was a tall and dirty tower that tilted slightly to the left. The front door needed to be repainted, and carved in the middle of it was an image of an eye. The entire building sagged to the side like a crooked tooth. "Oh," said Sunny, and everyone knew what she meant. She meant, "What a terrible place. I don't want to live there at all." "Well, it was nice to meet you," Violet said to Justice Strauss. "Yes," said Justice Strauss, gesturing to her flower pot. "Perhaps one day you could come over and help me with my gardening." "That would be very pleasant," Violet said very sadly. It would, of course, be very pleasant to help Justice Strauss with her gardening, but Violet could not help thinking that it would be far more pleasant to live in Justice Strauss's house instead of Count Olaf's. What kind of a man, Violet wondered, would carve an image of an eye into his front door? Mr. Poe tipped his hat to Justice Strauss, who smiled at the children and disappeared into her lovely house. Klaus stepped forward and knocked on Count Olaf's door, his knuckles rapping right in the middle of the carved eye. There was a pause, and then the door creaked open, and the children saw Count Olaf for the first time. "Hello, hello, hello," Count Olaf said in a wheezy whisper. He was very tall and very thin, dressed in a gray suit that had many dark stains on it. His face was unshaven, and rather than two eyebrows, like most human beings had, he had just one long one. His eyes were very, very shiny, which made him look both hungry and angry. "Hello, my children. Please step into your new home and wipe your feet outside so no mud gets indoors." As they stepped into the house, Mr. Poe behind them, the Baudelaire orphans realized what a ridiculous thing Count Olaf had just said. The room in which they found themselves was the dirtiest they had ever seen, and a little bit of mud from outdoors wouldn't have made a bit of a difference. Even by the dim light of the one bare light bulb that hung from the ceiling, the three children could see that everything in this room was filthy, from the stuffed head of a lion, which was nailed to the wall, to the bowl of apple cores, which sat on a small wooden table. Klaus willed himself not to cry as he looked around. "This room looks like it needs a little work," Mr. Poe said, peering around in the gloom. "This room looks like it needs a little work," Mr. Poe said, peering around in the gloom. "I realize that my humble home isn't as fancy as the Baudelaire mansion," Count Olaf said. "But perhaps with a bit of your money, we could fix it up a little nicer." Mr. Poe's eyes widened in surprise, and his coughs echoed in the dark room before he spoke. "The Baudelaire fortune," he said sternly, "will not be used for such matters. In fact, it will not be used at all until Violet is of age." Count Olaf turned to Mr. Poe with a glint in his eye like an angry dog. For a moment, Violet thought he was going to strike Mr. Poe across the face, but then he swallowed. The children could see his Adam's apple bob at his skinny throat, and he shrugged his patchy shoulders. "All right, then," he said. "It's the same to me. Thank you, Mr. Poe, for bringing them here. Children, I will now show you to your room." Have we ever had a more obvious villain? I'm struggling to think of if we've ever read about a more obvious villain. This is our introduction to the character who is about to stick three children who range in age from, I don't know, about 3 to 14 into one bedroom with one bed. Yeah. And they take turns sleeping in the bed, it's later discovered. And the smallest one sleeps in what would you call it?
A pile of curtains.
A pile of dirty laundry, basically.
Well, no, it's a pile of curtains because they had to take the curtains down to make a nest for the baby, which is why they're woken up at the crack of daybreak every day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this man, he is evil. But yeah, I did enjoy
Inadequately subtle, decries J.W. Friedman of Book for 10-year-olds.
Hey, shut up.
"I knew who the bad guy was all along," proclaims Chris Collision. "I saw it coming."
Look, I read mysteries, okay? I'm always on the lookout for clues. That's why I got Al Funcoot.
You fucking nailed him. Fucking nailed that shit, bro.
I knew right away, this man is up to no good.
Yeah. I mean, I've probably told this story on the show before. Forgive me if I have, but I went and saw Troy with one of my buddies, and there's this scene where Brian Cox is playing Agamemnon, and someone tells him something like, "The sons of Troy will never kneel to you, Agamemnon," and he literally just does this thing that I've never seen an actor do on purpose before, where he kind of turns to the camera and just says, "Then every son of Troy shall die." And my buddy that I went and saw it with turned to me and mimed grabbing a piece of scenery and just literally starting to bite it.
You're not watching enough Lovejoy reruns, my friend. But anyway,
but that's very much your introduction to Count Olaf.
I feel like they maybe could have ramped it up a little. And I don't write for children. I don't know. I don't read a lot of children's books, but I feel like it may have worked a little bit better if at first you got the impression he might be a decent guy and then gradually realized he was this evil motherfucker, instead of having him come right out the gate baring his teeth, living in a house with a bowl full of rotten apple cores. That's just me. I don't know. Whatever.
I think
He might as well be
I think
the big
you make
bad
a good
wolf.
point. I think you make a good point. He might as well be the big bad wolf. But I think what you're underrating slightly is the joy kids take in feeling like they understand something that the tall ones don't. So all the adults being completely oblivious, but all the clues being right there, all the evil being right out in front, I conjecture, is immensely satisfying to the target audience, which, rule of threes, I have to reiterate, 45-year-old men with subscriptions to newspapers.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I don't get it. I just don't understand how you can live next to, quite literally, a government official in a house that's so dilapidated that it, is described several times as smelling foul from the outside, filled with, rotting things and like falling apart, and having her go, I don't know him that well. I don't know. I'm just saying.
That's San Francisco for you.
Yeah, it is.
I would like to do a dramatic reading now, and like yours, mine also centers on that fiendish figure, Count Olaf, or should I call him Al Funcoot?
I think you should call him Al Funcoot because it's way more hilarious.
Unfortunately, it's also the kind of thing where if I get my tongue twisted, I'm much more likely to say something deeply upsetting.
That is true, and every time I read the name Al Funcoot, I was like, is this really appropriate? I don't know. There was that, too.
Yeah. The really frightening thing about Olaf, she realized, was that he was very smart, after all. He wasn't merely an unsavory drunken brute, but an unsavory, clever drunken brute. While you were busy reading books and making accusations, Count Olaf said.
I was studying the blade. Sorry. Sorry, I'll cut that out. You can start the sentence again.
No, you gotta leave that in. That's fucking awesome. While you were busy reading books and making accusations, Count Olaf said, I had one of my quietest, sneakiest assistants skulk into your bedroom and steal little Sonny away. She is perfectly safe, for now, but I consider her to be a stick behind a stubborn mule. Our sister is not a stick, Klaus said. A stubborn mule, Count Olaf explained, does not move in the direction its owner wants it to. In that way, it is like you children who insist on mucking up my plans. Any animal owner will tell you that a stubborn mule will move in the proper direction if there's a carrot in front of it and a stick behind it. It will move toward the carrot because it wants the reward of food, and away from the stick because it does not want the punishment of pain. Likewise, you will do what I say to avoid the punishment of the loss of your sister, and because you want the reward of surviving this experience. Now, Violet, let me ask you again. Will you marry me?
Okay, so this is one of the troubling things that I found about this book, is that I should have mentioned this in the low points. I think I even did. Is that, yes, he's doing it for the money and the inheritance, but the grand scheme of this involves a man who is ostensibly in his 40s or 50s trying to marry a 14-year-old girl. That's a little weird and creepy. Just gotta put that out there.
It is always weird and creepy when a man does it all for the nookie.
It is. It's a little. What if? Oh. See, in I believe in the show, Count Olaf is portrayed by Jim Carrey. But what would have made
in the movie, he's Jim Carrey. In the show, it's Doogie Howser.
That's better. But I think ultimately, who you really want is Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh. What's the deal with these meddling kids?
All I want to do
Why
is
did they?
take their money, and it's just like, they don't like it when I hang their sister over a balcony in a bird cage.
Did you ever notice how 14-year-olds don't want you to marry them and use all their money to buy light acid wash jeans and white tennis shoes?
Oh, well, I think that's about as dramatic it gets when you're dealing with a book for this age range. So we should probably move on to another game. Let's do a What Would They Do?
Sometimes intentions are hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
All right, Jay, as the song says, as I suspect you know because you wrote it, and as I suspect the listener knows because they just heard it, that's my best lemony snicketing, what would they do? Asks you to take part in the book or the universe of the book. So, Jay, imagine that you are a scheming villain who needs to use your special skills to get the pesky Baudelaire kids out of the way so you can get your hands on their inheritance. So, Jay, what are your special skills, and what is your stealthy scheme?
Okay, so I watch a lot of British mystery television, as people know. And so in this case, I think my special skill would be dumping people into a well, which also goes on to describe my special scheme. It's an all-in-one.
So in the way that families with the last name Cooper had at some point a barrel maker way back when in the old lineage, your last name in this would be something like Well Dropper.
Yeah, Well Dropper. Yeah, definitely. Well Dropper. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another good, like, Midsummer Murders type scheme to get rid of people. Perhaps, they could fall into a vat of real ale that's being made in the neighborhood brewery. It would be something like that. I think something far more murderous than Olaf. Not me in particular, but this is me inhabiting the character of, and I'm just trying to think of the least difficult to pull off, the one that involves the least amount of subterfuge and complication, and it would definitely involve some kind of very simple yet archaic murder scheme because I'm a horrible person.
So in the world where you're carrying this out, you expect the police to do something like, well, 3 orphans were dropped down a well. All seems in order here. Let's just let the inheritance go as planned to, what was your name again? Oh, that's right, Mr. Well Dropper.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Well Dropper couldn't have had anything to do with this. Let's go have a pint at noon and watch some cricket.
The terrible thing is, as far as I can tell, your plan is about 99% likely to succeed unless you try to perpetrate it upon baby Jessica.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Your ancient nemesis.
My ancient nemesis, baby Jessica, yeah. Triple felon MC minus the melanin when I'm bombing the type of shit to make baby Jessica drop in the well again. Yeah. That was an LP quote before he got political.
Was that before or after he was in, oh shit, what did he just say again? Marksman or whatever the line is?
Yeah. This was way back in the Company Flow era. Fun Crusher Plus, great album. Everyone should check it out. It's way better than Run the Jewels. Go ahead and put me against the wall right now.
Yeah, so I took it a little more as though it would be me in the world. So, instead of being descended from a long line of people who drop people into wells.
Okay, all right, let me rewind then. Okay, if we're going to use my set of special skills, okay. I would compose a Pied Piper-esque melody to lure these children into a well.
That's amazing, and that means I'm going to go ahead and scrap mine. I would just sort of stand around in the background waiting for you to do cool stuff and coattail along. Awesome!
Cool.
All right, that was fun. I've got another game I would like to subject you to, Jay, and I'm going to apologize in advance for this particular. What is your fave?
What is your fave? What is your fave? When you're presented with a list of options, what is your fave?
All right, what is your fave? What it sounds like.
Yep.
You know, presented with a list of options. What is your fave? Etc. Etc.
Absolutely classic. One that we don't do enough, I don't think.
Well, it
but
requires
anyway,
a lot of preparation, and you know, lately, energy's been low, so I understand completely.
energy's low, but I'm high. So anyway, I'm going to present you with a list of options, and you've got to tell me what your fave book in the Lemony Snicket series, A Series of Unfortunate Events, you like best.
But I've only read one.
Well, it's just the title.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, I didn't know there was homework.
Yeah, you were supposed to read 15 books.
Okay. And watch like 3 different like teleplay adaptations. Okay, cool.
Okay, so which of these is your favorite title? The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, The Miserable Mill, The Austere Academy, The Ersatz Elevator, The Vile Village, The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Slippery Slope, The Grim Grotto, The Penultimate Peril, or The End?
Okay, this one's easy for me, and it all boils down to one thing, and it's which is the most likely to have an Insane Clown Posse cameo.
Yep.
And that would be the Carnivorous Carnival, because I would love to see these 3 precocious youths get the best of Violet J and Shaggy 2 Dope.
That would be amazing. I think I might actually have to go with The Miserable Mill or The Vile Village on the premise that those are the only 2 titles that could also plausibly describe a Thomas Hardy novel.
Oh, yeah, he's Bane, right?
Yeah.
Come on down to my carnivorous mill.
I cannot understand what you're saying.
I love the fact, just, you know, this is well known and everyone knows it, but I love the fact that they had to redub all of his vocals for that movie because he was so in character that he was completely ununderstandable.
Yes, I'm so glad they redubbed it so he was only 45% ununderstandable.
Yeah, it's just like that's what you get. That's what you get after like 3 days of retakes, is you still get, well, Batman, so yeah, that's good. Good stuff.
You're like, is Sean Connery drunkenly threatening me? I don't understand what's going on. Why has he got a curtain in his mouth? Anywho, we should play our final game of the day, of the episode. Jay, if you somehow, using some kind of Willy Wonka-like technology, manage to transmogrify this creation of paper and ink and word into an intangible melody with a rhythmic structure and also, I guess, words, what would this be?
It would be a song. Here is one of them.
The subject has some words, but not a melody and no rhythm at all. It's playing out with me, so we read all along. And it's probably wrong, it got us think about what if this were a song. What would it sound like?
All right, I'm going to go first, and this is a little specific, so bear with me, folks. I'm still not convinced that this takes place in Great Britain or any of the other countries that it appears to take place in. In my mind, this is a dark corner of New England, right? So I'm thinking kids in America, but done in that special way that only happens for like Hans Zimmer movies, where they slow the music down for the trailer and play it exclusively on piano, and someone takes a very major key song and turns it into a minor key song. So it's like, we're the kids in America, whoa, and then a very dramatic piano riff happens.
Right? So it's a real Mad World, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. The Donnie Darko Mad World treatment, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So for me, since I liked this better than you did, it would be something that is twee whimsy that hits what it's aiming for and very much satisfies its audience, which perhaps it's inventing as it goes along. So this would be your Neutral Milk Hotel, the one good album. Do not come try to tell me On Avery Island is good. It's an answer to the question, what if Neutral Milk Hotel, but no fucking songs? So miss me with that shit. No, this is the good one.
I could see that. I could see that for sure. Perhaps he could come back out of retirement to record a song specifically about this. And it would be entitled, I don't know, something like The Depressing Tale of Three Orphans or something like that. I've noticed there's a heavy accordion bass to a lot of this book. You could read most of this with some maudlin accordion, which I guess makes sense since the authorial insert character does own an accordion. But yeah, I agree.
Nice. Okay, so that concludes the games segment. And as always, who won? We all did.
Maybe. I'm still convinced we're going to get so many angry letters about this. I read this to my kids and they enjoyed it. It's like, congratulations. I'm really glad your kids enjoyed it. I found this insufferable.
Jesus. Great, Jay. Congratulations. Your kids have shitty taste. I bet they like you too. Boom! We hate our audience.
Hey, when I was a kid, I had shitty taste. I probably would have dug this a lot. We'll get more into that later.
Oh my God.
But I think the time for frivolity is over. And let's go ahead and take a break. And I don't know. I'm just going to think about how much I hate things for kids for a while.
Yeah. Remember, watch Riverdale on the CW.
All right, we're back. We're done with the part of the show where Clsn enjoys a book for children, and I savage it.
I will never be done with that.
And we're going to start out with recommendations of things that you may not be exposed to, and you might want to get exposed to. So here's a song that has absolutely nothing to do with exposing oneself. Here we go.
Not only venom and spite, sometimes with sweetness and light, and we always end the episode by telling you about a thing we like. Recommendations.
I guess I will go first. I'm just to prove that I am not the Grinch. I'm going to go with a children's book. and I feel like I've recommended this before, but I'm going to recommend it again because I just, once again, whenever the topic of children's literature comes up, I feel like the exemplary example of this type of book that is for, slightly precocious youth who want to feel, maybe not want to feel, but are the types that like to figure out things, as you said, that tall people have not figured out yet. And that is going to be, and I need to look up the author. So I'm going to recommend something that, I think is pretty exemplary of kind of the best sort of novel that you could write for a child that, wants to know things that the tall people around them don't. And perhaps have the first, what's the word I'm looking for? Because it's definitely for me, have the first revelatory moment that you've solved a mystery while reading a book. And that would be, I did not realize this is now a Puffin Modern classic. Ellen Raskin's The Westing Game, which I mentioned earlier. It is a really good book. I don't know that children feature heavily in it, but it's definitely written for kids. It's a really cool mystery, and I enjoy it. It's won tons and tons of prizes for distinguished contributions to American children's literature. It's from 1978. It's a really, really cool mystery book that a kid could solve, but an adult would enjoy. And I like that a lot. So yeah, The Westing Game, I would say go for that. It's also got that Hot Topic vibe. So just saying.
All right, I think that's good. I'm also going to keep it kind of related to what we read. It's like this, but better. And it, again, is kind of twee, kind of goth, but has a tiny bit harder edge, really commits in a way that this didn't. And it is, of course, a book by Nincompoop Sparkle Pony Esquire, and it's called Captain Capybara and the Crapulous... No, never mind. Sorry. I'm going to...
I was like, where is he going with this?
I'm going to recommend something that you mentioned earlier that I do think is like this, but more charming, although less readable. And that is The Young Visitors, or Mr. Saltina's Plan, which is free to read. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's a novel, and it actually is a novel. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, although those three things maybe don't get the normal amount of space you would expect.
But it's like 3 times longer than this, too.
Yeah. But it was written by a Victorian, 10-year-old girl. And it's a lot of fun and very related to this kind of thing. This book is more an adult pretending to imagine what it's like to be a kid. This is very much a kid a kid trying to imagine what it's like to be an adult. And I think you'll like it. We also did a bonus episode about it, so if you seek it out, you enjoy it, and you want to hear what we thought about it, that's available as well.
And I'm far less savage on that one because I enjoyed it a lot. It definitely, like you said, there is a lot of a kid imagining what it's like to be an adult, but there's also some kind of subterfuge. There's some, relationships that are based on not necessarily love or kindness, but greed and social climbing, and it's inherently more cynical than this, I would say, and it's written by a 10-year-old, so that rules.
More cynical 10-year-olds, cries J.W. Freeman.
Hey, I know what I know. I know where I came from, and I know what I appreciate.
Fair enough.
So, unlike the next episode, where all of the letters we read are going to be people calling me a horrible monster for not liking this book, sometimes we get correspondence from people who actually enjoy the show, and that we read it on air. So here's a song.
A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E,
right, so this this is a short one, and it is from friend of the show Jeb Lund, and goes like this. Excitedly listening to this Stormfront episode, and seeing if my review of Stormfront makes an appearance. And this is where the record scratch noise appeared, and I had to admit, shit, I remember reading that a million years ago, and did not reference it in the show. Oops!
I knew there was something
asshole.
eating at the back of my head the whole time we were reading that, and it's probably I read that a while ago, and it was kind of sticking back there.
God damn it!
Yeah, we dropped the ball because Jeb had some really insightful things to say about that. So I suggest looking up Jeb's review of Stormfront. Just make sure that Stormfront is 2 words when you Google it. I would put them in quotation marks just to be safe, because you don't want to end up on the wrong Stormfront page. Trust me.
I think it's actually no longer up, so you may not be able to look for it successfully, but you should just know that I don't think we stole any jokes, but if we did, there might be an opportunity for him to tell us so in the near future. ... parentheses, hint, close parentheses, space, parentheses, hint, close parentheses.
Are you saying that there might be a reoccurrence of a frequent guest?
I'm just saying that we might be just going about our business, and there might be some kind of just devastatingly loud smashing glass noise. And somebody might swagger in, slam a couple of beer cans together, and offer to kick a mud hole in us and stomp it dry.
Yeah, I've just realized I'm the Count Olaf of this episode. It just occurred to me.
Shit, does that make me a plucky orphan who's about to receive an inheritance?
No, I would say it makes you more of a maybe a Mr. Poe. Maybe a little more forgiving of flaws.
Fun collision fact. There was a lengthy time when my government name was, in fact, Poe.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Back many a long year ago before I was adopted.
Huh. Well, there you go.
Let's read one more letter, and this is mostly because it's a great letter and to offset the avalanche that you're a little bit afraid of for next time.
Okay.
And it has a subject line that, I'm just going to be honest, guarantees that I personally will read your email. A nice letter! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Well, email writer, you had my attention. Now you have my interest.
And if you don't already know, Collision does most of our mail reading and compiling. So if you really want to get it in, you would do a nice letter, 3 exclamation marks, in parentheses, except that asshole Jay.
Oh, I would never. That email would go straight into the trash. If you really want me to read it, it would be a nice letter, 3 exclamation points, and then in parentheses being like, do you want some hockey cards? Now that is how you write an email. Anyway, and it goes like this. It is from Rosa, fake last name. Hi guys, I wanted to give some more appreciation since you both are great and you deserve it. Not only do you run a great podcast, but you two are also some of the most conscientious folks I've had the pleasure to listen to. I'm a trans woman, and it can be difficult to find a podcast that I can be totally comfortable listening to without having to brace myself for transphobic jokes, so I super duper appreciate how you know to call that stuff out, along with all the racism and misogyny that can blindside you in some of the stuff you read. I stan SJW Friedman.
Woo!
So,
thank you.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, Jay. All the best.
It may go down. I hate children's literature, but I love everybody as a human being.
Fair enough. So hopefully that will insulate you and carry you through the next couple of weeks of savage denunciations of anti-hot topic fiend J.W. Friedman.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time editing this without being like, wow, I'm a fucking villain.
You know, as the poet once said, there's some books that are good. There's some books that are bad. Sometimes you read a book and it just strikes you wrong and it just doesn't do it for you.
Yeah, and I'm going to borrow a line from another podcast right now because I probably should have mentioned this up front. It's okay to like a book that we don't like, or that one of us doesn't like. It doesn't mean the book is bad. It means your opinion differs from ours, or mine in this case. I know there are probably quite a lot of people in our listening audience who enjoy the Lemony Snicket books, and I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying I don't like this book. It has nothing to do with you as a human being. I'm sure you're great. I'm sure you also read a lot of stuff that I enjoy. I couldn't deal. I could not deal.
I think it's important to remember that there's a difference between what you like and what you're like, and that's one to grow on. In conclusion, never read.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't. Just read long-form articles about true crime and slowly sink into a morass of fucking nihilism. And, yeah.
Anyway, if while you are sinking into a morass of nihilism, you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so. The best way is at I don't even own a television at gmail.com. That's a way you can send us an electronic mail. If you would like to talk to other people about our show in a positive and friendly way, in a positive and friendly space, you're not going to believe this, but that space exists on Facebook? Record scratch.
I got an email today. As most folks know, I work in the software industry. I got an email today with the header, "What's it like to work at Facebook?" And it was a recruiting email, and it was like, "It's great, it's blah, blah, blah." And I replied with probably one of the bluntest and meanest replies to a recruiting email I ever sent, where I was like, "I'm sure your technology stack and your employees are wonderful, but I do not want to work for a bootlicker who justifies quotes from George Wallace." So we'll see if they write back. Who knows?
Fun.
Yeah.
That fucking rules. Remember, kids, confront bullshit and bigotry wherever you encounter it in the way that works best for you. Make yourself uncomfortable sometimes. It's worth it. But anyway, speaking of Facebook, let's have fun on it. And you can do so in the I Don't Even Own a Television Fun Time Party Pit. Just search for it. You'll find it. I'll let you in, or Jay will, after you promise not to be a butthead. Other ways you can get involved with the show. You know what? Like, a lot of people have a lot of time. There's a yawning chasm of empty hours confronting many of us right now. There's an infinite number of dishes to do. Why not a podcast? Why don't you, yes you, the one listening to this right now, put down that bowl of soup and listen to what I'm saying, bother your friends, and tell them to listen to our humble show.
Yep. And, continuing with our ongoing kind of hiatus from the donation drive, we are on Patreon. There's a lot of extra bonus content there. You can find it and listen to it if you're so inclined, but that does require a monetary donation, and I do think right now there are better things to donate your money to. So if you're already a donor and you want to continue your donorship, we appreciate it. If you have a lot of extra money and you want to start donating to it, you will get all of our previous episodes, bonus episodes, but I would really highly suggest thinking about how you're spending your money in these times right now. If you only have a few dollars to donate to a cause, a bad book podcast is probably not the best of them.
It should not be number one on your list. That is a true fucking fact. Besides, like, there's 150 of these to get through first. Like, you're fine. There's plenty.
Yeah. I did the math at some point, and like we're approaching like 4 months of nonstop audio, just on the main feed. So, yeah, you don't need to do it. You can do it. We appreciate it, but please, like, don't prioritize us above, social issues. There's a lot of Black Lives Matter related causes that really need your help right now. There's a lot of other social causes that really need your help right now. I think the goal for everyone, if you have extra money right now, would be to, help end racist police brutality and not necessarily get some more funny episodes to listen to. So just think long and hard, but if you can do it, do it. If not, that's cool. We totally understand. Just tell your friends about the show.
So yeah, please stay safe out there. Please try to make a little bit of a difference. And remember, we're the only podcast that actually loves you.
We are. And also the only podcast right now that deals with books, I think, that's going to tell you, even if your government tells you it's okay to go eat at a restaurant, don't eat at a fucking restaurant. Just wait for that graph to go down. Okay. Anyway, so... I think that's about it. I'm done being preachy. So,
I'm never done being preachy. Now you can hop over to my new Twitch stream where I just berate you while losing at Super Mario Brothers. Because apparently that's what the kids like to watch now. I don't really understand.
I think losing at Super Mario Brothers might be a bit outdated, but we get the gist.
I'm not good at video games.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next time around. Maybe with a special guest. Who knows? And
what could that special guest be lurking behind that curtain?
Oh, it's Count Olaf. Everyone run. Okay. That's it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Until then, I don't know. Ride the crab for justice.